Uh, yeah. And of uh, all right. Yes. As we, Michael, that the anti-corruption is my to come through with the program. Mr. Tembo, good evening and welcome to the program.
Good evening, Nancy, and welcome the viewers.
All right, thank you so much, and it's really a great pleasure to have you right here. So, just a quick one. Let's get to have you introduce yourself to our dear viewer, and of course, to everybody that is following this particular broadcast.
Okay, I'm Mr. Brighton Tembo. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Community Action Against Corruption. That is an organization which has been active starting from the year 2017 to date. Our expertise is in the field of corruption, fight, research, and we also do make publications concerning insights into the fight against corruption.
All right. Thank you so much for that. And quickly, let's get into our topic of discussion this particular evening. We are looking at the competency of the Anti-Corruption Commission in fighting corruption in this country. In your view, do you think that the SEC is competent to fight corruption in this country at the rate that we are moving in this country?
Yes, Nancy. When we look at the Anti-Corruption Commission, if we look at the word competence, here we have to define the word competence itself, and because the opposite of competence is incompetence. Is the Anti-Corruption Commission incompetent to fight corruption? At the moment, more especially under the new Dawn government, we cannot say much about their competence, because if we look at the way corruption is being fought in this country, there are so many cases. The only time we can state to say the Anti-Corruption Commission is competent or not competent is dependent upon the court cases that are coming, the verdicts that are coming from the courts of law. If you look at the Anti-Corruption Commission, starting from 2021 up to date, so many cases have been taken to court, and there has never been a very good feedback. So in that case, we cannot say the Anti-Corruption Commission is incompetent, because the only time we can say the Commission is incompetent is when much of the cases or many of the cases which they are taking to court are resulting into maybe acquittal or the cases collapsing in the courts of law. So what we can say, the Anti-Corruption Commission at the moment has no systems that can fight corruption to an extent which we can say it is satisfactory to the Zambians. The competence can only be seen if the cases which they are taking to court are resulting into conviction or acquittal. Because in the fight against corruption, there are two results. If a person is taken to court, that person may be acquitted or may be convicted. But at the moment, there is no proper feedback from all the cases that have gone to the courts of law back to the Anti-Corruption Commission to say we've convicted this person or that person. So in this case, we cannot talk of competence. If the cases were collapsing in the courts of law, we can say the Anti-Corruption Commission is not competent. If the cases were resulting into convictions, then we can say the Anti-Corruption Commission is competent. At the moment, we can just describe the Anti-Corruption Commission as an organization which is failing to live up to the expectations of the people because of the systems which they are using as an anti-corruption commission in Zambia.
All right, very important there. Let me take this time to recognize my co-host, Chaza. Chaza, good evening and welcome to the program.
Good evening, Lance, and thank you so much. Good evening, Mr. Tembo.
Good evening, Chaza.
All right, so maybe quickly, as Chaza will be coming in with the next question, riding on what you have said or what you have explained so far, do you think that this current government, the UPND government, as they promised the people when they were in opposition, so when we come into power, we're going to fight past corruption, current corruption, and probably future corruption. Do you think that they are living up to that which they promised in this fight? And with your description of the Anti-Corruption Commission, can we say that currently they are toothless?
Yeah, at the moment, Lancy, we cannot say they have lived up to that promise. We cannot say they have lived up to that promise which they promised the Zambians, because the fight against corruption must be accompanied by the results. And when we say the results, we must be cognizant of the fact that the results we are talking about are court cases, corruption cases taken to court, resulting into conviction of certain people, and also resulting into acquittal of certain people. But the Anti-Corruption Commission, up to now, Lancy, you know that there are cases which were unearthed almost 2 years ago in 2021. Up to now, all the high-profile cases, not even one has been processed into either an acquittal or a conviction. So in this case, the Anti-Corruption Commission is not very much different from the Anti-Corruption Commission which existed in the previous regime, which is just talking too much, but not bringing the results forth. So in this case, we are saying the Anti-Corruption Commission has not lived up to the expectations of the people, and the fight against corruption, unfortunately, has not been very much satisfactory because the results are not matching the talk. So in this case, we cannot say they have lived up to the expectations of the people. Remember, when the UPND came into power, people were very much expectant. People were very much confident to say, we're going to see a systematic kind of corruption fight, which can fight corruption of the previous regime and corruption of the current regime. But at the moment, there is neither evidence to show that the current fight against corruption is leading us to a conclusive type of corruption fight. What we are doing is like we are just moving the circles. What the nature of the Anti-Corruption Commission at the moment, it is just a commission which is raising a lot of expectations in the people, but their work is contrary to what they are saying.
Chaza.
All right, thank you so much, Lance. Mr. Tembo, I've heard you've talked about, systems not being in place, or there's no mechanism per se to effectively, fight corruption. Being, a person coming from, an organization that is fighting, corruption, what mechanisms or systems do you think are supposed to be put in place so to effectively, fight corruption? What is it that is supposed to be done by the current regime so that corruption can be seen to be fought, and indeed it can be fought?
Yes, the fight against corruption should be done in a proactive manner. So in the first thing at the moment, what the anti-corruption should do is to collaborate with the judicial system in Zambia, where now they have to, these people, they operate under the same ministry, that is the Ministry of Home Affairs. These people should take corruption cases seriously, not taking corruption cases as business as usual. I'll give you an example. Just as much as we are looking at the Anti-Corruption Commission, we are disappointed with the Anti-Corruption Commission. We, as Community Action Against Corruption, we are also very much disappointed with the judicial system in Zambia vis-a-vis the fight against corruption. If you look at corruption cases, I'll give you an example, Chaza. A person is convicted of corruption, and that person appeals the case. Then that person, after appealing the case, he appears in court. Then here is the judge giving that person an adjournment of 4 months. Look at this. For that person to be convicted, it means the grounds were enough. What the courts must do at that point is just to review the case, which can even take a month. But you find that somebody, today, this is November, 1st November, somebody who has appealed a corruption case is now, the case is adjourned to March next year. Are we helping in the fight against corruption? In that manner, the judiciary and the Anti-Corruption Commission, they are not coordinating well to make sure that the fight against corruption becomes systematic, which can result into conviction of people or acquittal of people. Because a person who has been labeled corrupt, that person must go through either an acquittal or a conviction. But at the moment, there is no serious collaboration between the judicial system in Zambia and the Anti-Corruption Commission. Corruption cases, in fact, corruption cases are even given a soft path, both in the courts of law and on the side of the Anti-Corruption Commission. Because why should the Anti-Corruption Commission be very much comfortable when a corruption case, a person convicted of corruption has been given 4 months adjournment? Now, look at the months that are there in a year. That's why this person will just appear in the courts of law 3 times or twice in a year. And then we are saying we are fighting corruption. Are we taking corruption seriously? We are not taking corruption seriously. Then on the measures, the Anti-Corruption Commission should come up with measures that can audit their work. They should not be proud of coming and reporting that we are in the third quarter of 2023, we had 17 arrests, then we had 5 convictions, 2 acquittals, and 10 cases under appeal. Such kind of statistics should not excite the Anti-Corruption Commission, looking at the gravity and the danger which corruption poses to this country. So in this case, the judiciary, the Anti-Corruption Commission, they are not coordinating well. These are the 2 institutions which have disappointed the Zambians vis-a-vis the fight against corruption.
Maybe just a follow-up question on that. Don't you think that somehow, somewhere, the Anti-Corruption Commission in its current state is underfunded? Hence the reason why they would accuse somebody of, or they would convict somebody of corruption. When taken to court, then you find that the judiciary or the ACC itself fails to provide proper documentations or documents, or probably a dossier on on that corruption case which they might have presented into the courts. You find that this is not there, papers are not in place, the DPP is forced to maybe enter a nolle or to ask for an adjournment of the case. Could it be because this institution is underfunded, hence the reason why much research is never done on a corruption case?
In the first place, Lancy, when we look at funding, let us not mislead ourselves. Zambia, looking at our economy and the funding to these institutions, it is similar. If you look at the current Anti-Corruption Commission, if we can even devote our entire national budget to the Anti-Corruption Commission, the fight against corruption cannot change. What should change are the systems. And developing a system does not require a lot of money to be pumped into the fight against corruption. Look at funds that have been announced to say, no, we've empowered the Anti-Corruption Commission. Even when we put a lot of money in the Anti-Corruption Commission, the results will not change. What must change are the systems, and what the Anti-Corruption Commission should develop is the seriousness. They should understand that they are there to fight corruption on behalf of Zambians, and they should not be there to produce statements that are more alarming to the nation, but fail to get any results on behalf of the Zambians. So, Lance, to be frank with you, we as Community Action Against Corruption, we don't think it is the underfunding which is the fight against corruption in Zambia. What is undermining the fight against corruption in Zambia is lack of systems that we can apply in order to fight corruption effectively. Look at the Drug Enforcement Commission. The Drug Enforcement Commission, because of their systematic approach to sensitization and collaborating with the people of Zambia against drug abuse, we've realized that the Drug Enforcement Commission is more effective with the same, almost equivalent budget compared to the Anti-Corruption Commission. So at the Anti-Corruption Commission, what we do not have are the systems. The Anti-Corruption Commission depends on all the old-tired systems that we've used from time immemorial that have failed to produce results. Like, for example, we are talking of arresting, prosecution in the courts of law, which have completely failed to produce the results. The Anti-Corruption Commission can be effective even with this budget if the people there could start looking at developing systems that can make them effective. So it's not the budgeting process.
Very interesting there. To our dear viewers, remember that you are watching Meet Your Leaders on Ubuntu channel, and shortly we shall be sharing with you the studio link for you to get to join through or join us into the studio to make your comment, to ask your question, or better still, add your voice to what we are discussing this evening. Our topic of discussion is the Anti-Corruption Commission competent to fight corruption. My guest, or our guest this evening, is none other than Mr. Brighton Tembo, who is coming through from the Community Against Corruption right here on Ubuntu channel. And maybe before Chaza come in, or Chaza will come in with the next question, Mr. Tembo, you've mentioned quite all right that 2 years down the line, we have seen SEC making pronouncements of high-profile people that they have accused of corruption, those that they have taken to court for corruption. And not so long ago, the country was very excited with the case of Faith Musonda, when the Anti-Corruption Commission restored or recovered some money that was believed to be proceeds of crime and everything to do with that. After that case, we were also taught that further investigations have been instituted. Now, the SEC announced the conclusion of that investigation into that matter of Faith Musonda. The question now that lies, do you as Community Against Action believe that this case will lead to any significant outcome?
Thank you so much once again, Lancy. You know, that case, this is what we are saying to say the Anti-Corruption Commission itself is not very much serious with the fight against corruption. You know, if it is in football, we can say the Anti-Corruption Commission was given a penalty to score so that they can record a good result. But we don't know what came to their minds and went through to start negotiating for feature of whatever was found, the amount of money was found and the properties found with that lady. And they used the Article 80 in the Anti-Corruption Act of 2012 to negotiate for full disclosure. Now, Lancy, look at this. In Zambia, we do not have systems that can audit the assets of an individual has. So now, if you look at the disclosure, we cannot have full disclosure in a system where it is very much difficult, even for me to know how many assets Lancy has in Zambia. So if somebody say, I'm going to do full disclosure, what kind of disclosure are they talking about? Do we have systems in Zambia that audit assets of each and every individual? That law can apply in developed countries like Europe, where a person cannot hide any piece of assets that person has. Here in Zambia, I may have a house in Solwezi in the name of my proxy. I may have another house in Petauke. You cannot know. So how can you look at depend on food disclosure. What kind of food disclosure? It is good that the Anti-Corruption Commission opted to go for that law, which we as Community Action Against Corruption, we are very much against, and it should be scrapped off from that the Anti-Corruption Act. And that approach, we immediately they went through, they opted to go that way. We condemned that move, and today we have indicated, because what has happened, these people are back to Faith Musonda, and they are saying there are some assets which she did not disclose. So how can you depend on such a law here in Zambia, such an act here in Zambia, where you cannot audit each and every person's asset, wasting people's time?
Lance, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. I was hoping you are the one coming in. Thought you had a follow-up question on that.
Okay, I can definitely come in. Mr. Tembo, you've alluded to quite a number of failures by the government to be seen. Unfortunately, we've lost him there.
Yes, definitely. It looks like we've lost him, obviously, due to connectivity issues right there. But quite a number of things that he has raised, and of course, from the onset, currently he says the Anti-Corruption Commission is not serious with fighting corruption. Now, the question to you, our viewer, is the Anti-Corruption Commission competent to fight corruption? That's the question that we have for you, our dear viewers. We want to know from you, so you can be able to join us into the studio. We have shared with you the studio link. All right. Yeah, we have shared with you the studio link. You can be able to click on the link and then get to join us into the studio. Or better still, leave us a comment and we'll be glad to hear from you. We'll be glad to read your comment. Just read your thoughts and understand what your take is on our topic of discussion. Remember, our guest this evening is Mr. Brighton Tembo, who is the Chief Executive Officer coming through from the Community Action Against Corruption. Mr. Tembo, welcome back.
Thank you, Lancy.
All right, over to you, Chaza.
Well, thank you so much, Lance. It's definitely good to have you back, Mr. Tembo. And just before you were actually kicked out, I was, saying you have brought out, so many points as regards, the government's failure, according to you, to fight, corruption through Anti-Corruption Commission. Now, I'd like to find out, from yourself, coming from an organization that is, in the fight against corruption, what do you do, in terms of fighting against corruption in liaison with the government? Do you engage the government, or how exactly do you come in, in terms of the fight against corruption? What is your role? And how do you interlink with the government of the day?
We as in the civil society organizations, like for example, Community Action Against Corruption, we exercise the open door policy with government. We are very much willing to engage with government and give necessary advice to government on how to approach the fight against corruption. But what we think the problem is on the other side, to our colleagues on the side of government. Because if you look at the Anti-Corruption Commission, the Anti-Corruption Commission is very much in tandem with these multinational anti-corruption organizations. And in most cases, they do not get views from the lower organizations that operate at community level, like the Community Action Against Corruption. This organization has been in existence the past 7 years, but previous years we used to have engagements, but we cannot call that as full engagement. What we can advise the Anti-Corruption Commission, they should periodically find means and ways of engaging grassroots organizations that are in the fight against corruption, so that they can get the views which these organizations on the ground can contribute, unlike focusing their attention on multinational anti-corruption organizations, which they think are the organizations that can provide necessary advice to them when it comes to the fight against corruption. So the engagement, again, with our organization, with the Anti-Corruption Commission, we cannot say it is very much good. I can say it is just a by the way kind of engagement.
Okay, have you, attempted, considering that the new dawn is relatively, new as it were, have you attempted, to engage this current government, and attempts have come to a stop?
Yeah, when we, for example, let me give you this example. I'm the author of the book, History and the Philosophy of Corruption in Zambia since 1991. This book was published December 2021. I have tried to engage the Anti-Corruption Commission on how best we can get this book to be in the to go into the tertiary institutions, so that people there can access that book and see which views are in that book, which can help in the fight against corruption. That has not been done. You can imagine, I made that effort. I wrote to the Anti-Corruption Commission. I even sent that book there. Whereas nothing came back as a feedback, which was positive. So in that case, what kind of engagement can we talk about?
Right. Thank you so much. And getting back to your submissions earlier, you indicated that there is probably no proper link or coordination between the Anti-Corruption Commission and the judiciary, or the courts, as it were. I'd like to find out from you how best these corruption cases can be disposed of. Do you think, through the court system, as it were, is working out, or do you have any other suggestion or taking the process away from the courts? Because as it stands, corruption cases are regarded just like any other case, and that being the case, they join the queue. This is why you have discussed, or rather buttressed the point that corruption cases, they take long as maybe 4 months if you talk of an adjournment, and so on and so forth. So what is your suggestion? What is the best way of disposing corruption cases?
Okay, the best way to handle corruption cases, number one, the UPND government, we commend them for taking a very beautiful step towards handling corruption cases. They created the Financial and the Crimes Court. So that court was established sometime last year. Now, from the time it was established, we expected that the establishment of that court was meant to get corruption cases away from the ordinary court cases, so that the burden of taking these corruption cases to the magistrate court can be taken. Now those cases can be taken to the Financial and the Crimes Court. But up to now, there is nothing that is coming out of that, despite having that court being created and being functional. And one thing which we should understand in Zambia, corruption cases should not be taken as ordinary cases or any other cases, because we look at the gravity which corruption cases exert on the country and the damage which corruption can do to a country. So corruption cases should be taken as special cases. But unfortunately, for sure, these cases are just taken as ordinary cases. They join the queue. Now, if you join the queue, where is the risk? You remember during the time of President Mwanawasa was very much committed to the fight against corruption. Okay, so since President Mwanawasa was very much committed against to the fight against corruption, we all saw what happened when the man who was committed to the fight against corruption left power, unfortunately, through demise. The people who are in the courts of law, who are facing corruption in the courts of law, received what? Pardon. Others were acquitted in a bizarre manner. So even this, if we continue delaying, we don't know why these courts are delaying the cases. Because the fight against corruption, I can tell you the truth. Whether we have laws, we have what, it also depends on the political commitment of the leaders who are in place. If you have a leader who is not committed to the fight against corruption, and you have all the laws that are there, you cannot achieve anything in the fight against corruption. So we should take advantage of the political commitment of the people who are in power, because what comes tomorrow, what tomorrow brings, no one knows. So delaying these cases, we should not be surprised that if there is any change, somebody or all these people will be pardoned. That is what we should know.
Thank you so much. For now, I'll take it back to Lance, and I'll come back later on.
All right. Thank you so much, Chaza. Maybe let's get back to the high-profile cases that you have mentioned, Mr. Tembo. Obviously, we've seen people from the previous regime or previous government that we've seen been accused of corruption. They've been taken to the fast track court, despite it being created. It seems like cases are not moving as fast as the case should be. There's been cries to say that this anti-corruption commission in its current state, it's built on fighting past corruption, unlike current corruption, because we have seen and heard many people, especially stakeholders in the political sector, accuse certain people in this government of corruption. But the Anti-Corruption Commission has never taken interest to follow up these people. And in some cases, we have seen the Anti-Corruption Commission coming to the aid, answering on the accused behalf to say they are not corrupt. If they are, bring evidence. Is this how it should be?
No, that is a very serious anomaly. And what we should understand, first, let me address the situation of corruption of the previous regime and corruption in the current regime. Lancy, look at this. The fight against corruption in countries like Zambia will always depend on the systems that we use. Look at this. Who appoints the director at the Anti-Corruption Commission? Who appoints these senior people who are supposed to fight corruption? Who appoints the judges? It is the president. Now, if the president is the appointing authority to the director at the Anti-Corruption Commission, it becomes very difficult for the Anti-Corruption Commission to arrest a person who is serving in that regime, who is close to the president, in whom the president doesn't want that person to be face the law. If the president is not willing, because we should not, let us not beat about the bush. There is that hand of the executive in the systems that we use to fight corruption. That's why we see if a person is a minister, is fired today, if he's fired today, you find that that minister, tomorrow, the Anti-Corruption Commission will be on that person. Why? He has lost the seemingly presidential jacket, which he was using to cover himself. That's why corruption fight is tilted to the people who have lost authority, who have lost presidential protection. Even those that you see ministers, government officials from the previous regime are the ones who account for corruption when there is change of regime. It is because of the system that we use in appointing, in the appointing systems, in as far as anti-corruption, judges and so forth is concerned. So the people who are committing corruption in the current regime, they should be ready to come and dance to the tune of corruption fight in the next regime. But at the moment, we shall never see, unless the president is willing to say, let this person, in most cases, that is when you see a person being arrested. So we'll be in a cycle where if you are in government today, you are committing corruption, wait for the next regime. If you are in the what, wait for that other regime. Not until we create some independence of the Anti-Corruption Commission. That is where we're going to see serving ministers in the current regime arrested, taken to court. That is when we'll see all the people facing equal justice in that dispensation. But at the moment, as long as the arrangement is like that, it is very difficult. I think even you two gentlemen there, you've seen that if a minister is fired today by the president, tomorrow the Anti-Corruption Commission will follow that person. Despite the Anti-Corruption Commission denying that we cannot do this, we cannot do that. But immediately the president fires that person is going to be hunted by the Anti-Corruption Commission. So what causes that is the system that we use to appoint people who in the Anti-Corruption Commission, Drug Enforcement Commission, Zambia Police, and so forth. As long as that system continues, let us get ourselves used to the system of if we leave power, then you will be haunted in the next regime. That is the system. That system comes from the system that we use when appointing these people who head these institutions that are designed to fight corruption.
Mr. Tembo, who is supposed to change the current system at the Anti-Corruption Commission, especially when it comes to appointing the DG, the Commissioner General, and all these people in positions? What should be the solution? And as an organization, have you ever made submissions or recommendations to government on how we can change systems at the SEC for it to be effective, even fighting today's corruption?
Okay, as a civil society organization, like I've mentioned, I don't know, I'm not speaking on behalf of all the civil society organizations that are involved in the fight against corruption. I'm speaking on behalf of the Community Action Against Corruption. We are not given enough platform where we can present our views. So the only platform that we can use to suggest is a platform like this one. When Ubuntu decides to give us a platform, this is the biggest platform that we can use to present our views concerning this. But from the side of the Anti-Corruption Commission, we as Community Action Against Corruption, who've been in existence for the past 7 years, we've never been accorded that platform.
Well, that is very worrying. Now, obviously, another concern that I think I've heard and somehow taken part in the deliberations from the political players, the concern which is there is that the SEC cannot be effective now because the office was moved into the office of the president. It's at State House. How true are these allegations? And could this be the reason why cases are not moving according to the way they're supposed to move?
No, our view on that one, we welcomed the moving of these institutions like the Anti-Corruption Commission under the office of the president or nearer to the president. Like I have said, let us not cheat ourselves. The fight against corruption depends on the political will of the president. This is a fact. It may be ugly to some people, but it is the truth. If the president is not willing to fight corruption, you can have very good laws. They can be ignored. Look at this. Let me give you an example. The current Anti-Corruption Act was enacted in 2012. The PF enacted that Anti-Corruption Act, and we saw how corruption was thriving at free will in the PF regime. These laws were there. The UPND government came into power. They have arrested people, taken the people to court, except that we have disappointing feedback. But the UPND government has not enacted any law concerning the fight against corruption. But we've seen people being taken to court by using the same Anti-Corruption Act of 2012, which was ignored in the previous regime. So anyone who insinuates that the fight against corruption will depend on the laws, that person, I think, is not truthful enough, and that person is very economical with the truth. To be factual, the fight against corruption in Zambia and many other African countries depends on the goodwill and political will of the president and the regime to fight corruption. You can have beautiful laws. If the regime is not interested, forget. Let me give you another example. We remember in the PF regime where a minister serving minister arrested by the Anti-Corruption Commission, notified by the president, taken to court. That minister is leaving his ministerial office, going to attend court cases. Now, Lance, what kind of a court, what kind of a witness, what kind of a prosecutor can prosecute a minister who is serving and he has all those ministerial powers? So you can see that the law, no matter how good, it can be undermined by the political system that you have at a particular time. So moving the office of the Anti-Corruption Commission in the office of the president, we welcomed that because we expected that the commitment which President Hakainde Hichilema has shown towards the fight against corruption, if the ACC is taken to his office, then we're going to see the results. And this is the reason why in my preamble, I said we were very much excited when the UPND came into power because we knew that the president is committed to the fight against corruption, but the feedback so far is very much disappointing. The regime seems to be very much committed, but we do not have the systems to deliver the results.
Now, maybe another one. The current boss at ACC, Musa Mwenye, when he was coming in, he made pronouncements, or he said that there is need for life audit, especially for them at the commission. If they are to fight corruption, there's need for, you know, that lifestyle audit for first the commissioners at the ACC, and then trickling it down to government officials or people in the civil service. You, as an interested party, as an organization that is fighting against corruption, have you ever taken time, or have you ever followed up on this issue, this pronouncement, how far it has gone, and is it happening? Do we have lifestyle auditing happening in the commission before it is introduced to people in the public sector?
I'll refer you to what I said earlier on. Lifestyle audit, Lance, like I've said, in Zambia, we do not have systems that can audit people vis-a-vis their assets and the monies that they have in a manner that is conclusive. So even when we say declare assets, the declaration of assets is an academic work, just academic. Even a declaration is a waste of time at the moment, not until we develop the systems that can audit assets of the people across the country through, for example, if I'm building a house, I have to go to a city council to allocate me with certain papers. I have to go to lands, I have to go to what? Now, Lance, look at how the nation struggled to identify who built those 50 plus housing units in Lusaka. If we can struggle with the identification of a person who is the owner of such kind of visible assets, why should we talk about even a lifestyle audit? We cannot manage that, not until we have systems that can audit the assets of people in a conclusive manner. So with us, we feel even a declaration of assets, it is just an academic exercise which has no effect in the actual system. If we are to fight corruption in terms of asset declaration, we have to be serious. We do not have systems. Unless we develop the systems, at the moment, we cannot say, no, I'm going to declare. What I can declare depends on what I feel I should declare out of all the assets that I have, because there is no proper system of auditing. So declaration of lifestyle audit, let us see, meantime, it is academic. We can just talk about it in passing or for entertainment's sake.
Maybe just a follow-up, because there's a write-up which was posted by Musa Mwenye, State Council, on Facebook, which is talking about the same issue as regards, lifestyle audit. And in conclusion, Musa Mwenye says, if we are serious about fighting corruption, we must become serious about the declaratory framework and lifestyle audits of various government officials. He's still emphasizing that this is very important, and I would like to agree with him because take, for instance, landed property. The custodians are Ministry of Land. If anybody has got, land or houses that, at a time without preparation, they have not hidden such properties, you definitely get to find them in their names at Ministry of Lands, even councils and so on and so forth. If the framework is there, I think 90% of the properties would definitely be found if an audit is done. And not only that, if we talk about motorized vehicles and so on and so forth, as regards the registrations, these assets would also be found if they have not been hidden in different names. So to some extent, if the framework is there, it can assist to actually ascertain, ownership as regards, landed property and other properties. Do you still disagree, or do you agree to some extent that this framework is very important to be put in place, despite, the situation of infancy in terms of technology and so forth that you have mentioned?
Okay, on that one, what I agree on the term framework. And when they say framework, that is what I'm referring to as systems. That is what I'm referring to as systems. We should have systems at the Ministry of Lands, where whosoever is trying to build, trying to construct, must be, the records must be very much clear at the Ministry of Lands. If you are in, must pass it through ZRA. Now, corruption in the systems.
Unfortunately, it looks like he's struggling with connectivity. Mr. Tembo, are you getting us? Lance, it looks like Mr. Tembo is having difficulties in terms of connectivity. So in case he's hearing us, I would request that probably he may exit and rejoin so that we can hear him properly, because so far we are on the same footing as regards, systems that are supposed to be put in place in terms of the framework to audit the lifestyle and assets of, government officials. And we are looking forward to hearing, to what extent he's agreeing with, this statement.
Definitely looking forward to that. And of course, to you, our dear viewer, we are still saying you can leave a comment underneath this broadcast, as well as also you can get to join us into the studio, as we have shared with you the studio link, so that you can be part of the program. This evening, we are discussing the competence of the Anti-Corruption Commission in fighting corruption. So is SEC competent to fight corruption? This is our topic of discussion this evening, and our guest is Mr. Brighton Tembo, coming through from the Community Action Against Corruption. He is the Chief Executive Officer, who has already expressed a few concerns, and obviously has talked about a few things which he does not agree with SEC, and looking at the current state that SEC is in, he's championed a few of his thoughts. You can also do the same by leaving a comment underneath, or by simply answering the question, is the SEC competent to fight corruption? We would love to hear from you. We'll be glad to have you, of course, come through into the studio, join us, and let's have this particular conversation. As we are waiting for our guest, Chaza, perhaps our producer can take us on a very short break, and then we'll be back on the other side as we continue discussing this great, important topic.
globally, 85% of infertility is because of infections, typically the chlamydia and the gonorrhea.
Your time is up. Thank you so much.
Okay, since I've been mentioned, I can react to what comment Chinda just
Yes.
I haven't finished my point.
Remember,
No, let me finish my point so that my brother can.
Does the Patriotic Front know the kind of damage they have done to our economy and to our country? I do not.
The alleged abduction of Pamela Chisupa, and this case has really kept us on our toes. And in as much as
nobody has been acquitted from this new dawn administration cases that have.
There we are. I must believe that our guest is right here with us now. Mr. Tembo, welcome back.
Oh, okay.
Lance, we are getting you. Mr. Tembo, are you here? Mr. Tembo, are you getting me? It
Yes,
looks like our guest. Okay, I was observing that you were having challenges there. It's good to have you back, and you were just about to explain to us, to what extent you are agreeing with the statement that we looked at, which came from Musa Mwenye there, which was talking about the importance of having a framework as regards, the declarations of, the assets by government officials, and also an audit of the lifestyle. You can proceed and give us your viewpoint, as it were.
Yes, as I was explaining, when he talked about the framework, he was also, in a way, we are speaking the same language. Our reference there is when we say the systems and the framework, meaning at the moment, do we have those framework? No, the answer is no. Like I was explaining, we should have a system where a construction purchase must be well documented, so that as the a full declaration of the assets. At the moment, I was saying that declaration is just academic, because we do not have the systems that can tell us to say, yes, this was a full declaration of the assets. And in most government institutions, declaration is just taken as a by the way issue or by the way activity. So we agree with the framework.
Beautiful. I think, due to time, unfortunately, we would need to end here, but we are looking forward to even having you next time and getting, into the in-depth as regards, issues of corruption and so on, because I have even seen, something that was posted some, 3-4 months ago, that, the owners of the Forteta houses were actually found, and, they were found guilty, and judgment was to come forth. We really need to delve into some of the cases that, were left hanging and so on and so forth. Just like you said, that conclusions do not come forth, from the courts as regards cases of corruption. We sincerely, appreciate your coming right here to the program, Mr. Tembo.
Thank you so much.
Beautiful. Lance, it's been a great time to be together right here, as it were, on this special program right here on our Ubuntu channel, meeting your leaders. Are you there, Lance?
Yes, I'm here, Chaza. Thank you so much.
Beautiful. And to the viewers and listeners out there, this has been your program, Meeting Your Leaders on Ubuntu channel. And our hosts tonight have been myself, Chaza, and Lance Banda right here. Till next time, we are saying God bless you all and take care of yourselves.